This is the Sideways Podcast. The date is June 12th, 2017. This is episode 1. We have Justin Puckett from the Evergreen State College in here, and we're going to be talking to him for a little bit about what's been going on at Evergreen lately. All right. Hey, Justin, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing good. Cool. So, Justin, why don't you give us a little... tell us your title at the school and give us a little rundown about you.
Yeah. So, I am a freshman. My first year at Evergreen. I am interested in law and public policy. I'm on the Geoduck Student Union, as well as I was recently appointed to be the student representative for the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, we're going to turn that on. So that was the AC for anybody listening. So it's getting hot in here. So to start out with, go over the day of...
Day of absence.
Day of absence.
So essentially, Day of Absence has been going on since 1970, and it is a day where traditionally people of color leave campus, white identifying students stay on campus, and both groups, it's a voluntary, and both groups fellowship and talk about issues related to racial justice.
Yeah. Now, the Day of Absence in the past... were white students able to take that day and go and join with you guys, or was it just students of color?
It was geared towards students of color. I can't speak historically, but it was geared towards students of color.
Okay, gotcha. So...
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never really heard about that up until the recent events in the school.
Yeah, well, I was a weekend and evening student, and I never heard of it. I didn't even know about it,
Yeah. Actually, for me, I went to a different campus out of the city, just like 30 miles away.
So, so you never heard it either.
Yeah, no.
So anyway, so going from the day, there was a time and place where you guys chose to change it, and when was that?
I believe it was the
for
time
this year.
Yeah. Last year after the Day of Absence, when the people of color left campus, organizers, some of whom were white, decided to switch it up Yes.
Oh, so actually, white students were the ones who pushed this forward.
Well, I'm not sure if there are any students on the organizing committee, but I do know. I do know of some faculty who are white who
agreed with it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this was something that was just decided in the fall, maybe.
I'm not sure. I'm not too sure the timeline. I know it was decided between this year and last.
Oh, okay. Between the last 2 years. Yeah. So there was a discussion about it, and then of course the students were notified of it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming and that's what led to Brett's email that came across, right?
Yeah, and I do think that the school could have done a better job in terms of communicating the change.
Yes, the messaging. Yeah, yes. Because I think it's still missing. Even discussing with you, it's still kind of missing. Kind of what were the white students? What were they gonna get? What was the benefit for them?
The benefit was for them to take a day and learn about racial justice, obviously through a lens of a white student, to learn more about how to be an ally. And
that's the ally thing, yeah. Go into what an ally is. Explain to the audience what the ally is.
An ally is a very subjective term. I believe that an ally is someone who doesn't identify with that community, but is on the forefront of the fight for equal rights.
Yeah. So kind of like I'm gonna use this because it's universal. It's like when Bernie Sanders, when in the '60s, when he was getting arrested with black civil rights people, he was an ally. Is that more or less what you're? Am I reading it right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So because I don't know if you guys remember the film of him being hauled off in shackles with a black African American woman.
Yeah.
So it's kind of kind of helps introduce people to the idea of it, or the concepts of becoming an ally to the people of color's community?
Yeah. I'm not too familiar with the actual conversation that was had this year with the white identifying students, but from what I've talked to other students on this campus, it was mainly to talk about racial justice and talk about how to be a better ally, and yeah.
Okay, so this event is like a voluntary event for. It's always been a voluntary event, so like this year when you decided to switch it was still a voluntary event, right?
Yes, it was, and that's some of the false.
And if I understand you right, you said there's 200. Earlier, you were talking to us. You said there was 200 slots open up for students to participate in this seminar, and how successful were with filling the 200 slots was the seminars?
I believe the full 200 spots were
filled.
Were filled, yes.
Oh, so it had a lot of people interested in going.
Yes.
Okay, so it was successful in that area.
So it sounds like to me that there's more people just fine volunteering to do it than not volunteering, right?
Yeah, there was
or
definitely,
roughly, or just like a maybe even number.
Yeah, and actually there was more students that showed up than had registered.
Then you had slots for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow! So it was pretty popular.
Yes. Yeah.
So on that end, you're like, hey, it was this the whole switcheroo thing was actually successful, and the people who wanted to come. The other people who didn't, for whatever reason, they chose to stay on campus. They chose to go to their classes, work in the computer lab, whatever.
Yeah.
So we go from there to a protest at Brett Weinstein's office.
Yeah.
And what led to that? Can you go over that?
So an incident happened on Facebook where a student, a black student, had posted that they were encouraging people of color to register for this program called MediaWorks because they wanted to make it a majority people of color class. And then another student who's also a person of color posted on Facebook that they posted on Facebook a rebuttal and substituted people of color for white people. And he was trying to show how he was trying to show the double standard.
Okay, so to get this straight, the document in place, the second student basically copied the exact same document and then just replaced one word or a couple words out of it.
Okay, so this is not the Brett Weinstein situation. This happened before.
This
is
the two
Okay,
students.
so before the Brett Weinstein, there was actually an incident on campus, which actually, when you look at the big picture, this is going to make sense. So this was like the day or two before this happened.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right.
It was about like a week before.
So a week before there was protests in Brett Weinstein's office. There were two students that were having a disagreement, and it was based on racial language. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
at this time, was the infamous Brett Weinstein email already produced? Or has it not been released yet?
So I think that go on.
It was produced, but I do not think it received the coverage until after the incident happened with the two students.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the two students kind of got people fired up. What was going on between those two?
They kind of there was allegedly I did not witness any threatening actions, but allegedly there was threatening remarks made by both sides.
Yeah. So it was escalating, and what happened once it started escalating?
Two African American students were escorted at 1 a.m. down to police services, which is the campus police station, and they were allowed to leave. I think a couple or a few hours after they were allowed to leave, but they were escorted down because the student who had made that rebuttal was saying that he didn't feel comfortable and he felt threatened by them.
So were these two African American people that were escorted down? Were any of them instigators of anything? Were they other than like a Facebook post that was maybe without knowing what was said in the Facebook post? Other than the Facebook post, was there anything else to go on? And usually Facebook post is one person. Yeah. So why would they take two?
Well, actually, let me clarify. The Facebook post was made on the Evergreen Commons, okay. The Evergreen Class of 2020 Facebook page.
Oh. So then it became, okay.
So a lot of students were involved. There was an incident that I did not witness, and I'm getting conflicting reports. But there was an incident in the greenery, the cafeteria for the college, where the students' words were exchanged between the two students, and
a verbal exchange.
Between one of the two students, and so
So and then the police officers they went and they grabbed these two students, and they held them until 1:30 in the morning. Is that correct?
No, they escorted them down at, I believe, 1 a.m.
1 a.m. And when were they released?
I'm not sure the chronological. I'm not sure the time frame, but
So it was like a few hours though in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And so were they playing pinochle, or what were they doing at the police?
I believe that they were just being questioned, and they were
interrogated,
and they were being held there, and a lot of students decided to show up to show support for those two students.
Okay, so going forward, around a week before the Brett Weinstein incident, two students got into it. A third one was brought in for questioning. Right, with one of the other students, or was the two students that were involved both brought in?
The two students that were involved.
So they brought both parties involved.
Wait, no, they involved only the two African American students. I'm not sure if the other student was questioned. My understanding.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering why did the other guy get so we had one student that was a minority, but he's not African American, and then we have an African American student that are not getting along, based off a Facebook post that was on one of the campus courses pages, and from there they go and from there they have a dispute into the cafeteria, and from there one of the students contacted the police on campus and said, "I don't feel comfortable."
Yes.
Based on what's been going on, it's escalating.
Yeah.
So they go and they get the person involved, and then take another one with them. Just like, hey, you're here too. Let's go. Or...
So they took the one student who lives on the same floor as the student who gave the rebuttal. Mm-hmm. They live on the same floor, and I believe the student who lives on the same floor. Sorry, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, it is.
Well, when you're not using names.
We're intentionally not using names. So the names are out
student
there,
A.
but we're not. Yeah, student A. So we have student A and student B. Where did student C come from?
So student C wasn't a part of the original online.
So student B was the person who had originally made the post about people of color take this class because we're gonna make this a majority POC class, mm-hmm. They were I'm not sure what happened.
What transpired?
Them.
Yes.
Okay.
But he was transported, and then the other student C was the student involved in the cafeteria incident, in which words were exchanged.
Oh,
between the two.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So they were picked up at 1, and then they were released later, and with the understanding that it's going to chill. Is that why they let them go, or they had to let them go, or?
I know student A was moved from his dorm to another living space for the rest of the year.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
So as a group, as a community, what was the anger with in this? It sounds like to me it sounds like they were de-escalating and keep getting them separated so that they don't have to hopefully not interact as much with each other. And hopefully nothing bad happens.
So what was the anger between the two students?
No. What I mean is the students were also upset about this.
Yeah.
So what was their beef with this? It sounds like they're just like, all right, you're going to go to one end of the room and you're going to go to the other room. Don't talk to each other. Type. It sounds like that's what they're doing, but they got used campus police to do it. So it sounds like two people not getting along were separated.
Yeah.
So what was the beef with the students? What did the students have the beef with the administration or the police on that one?
So
for the audience who might not see it.
Yeah.
You know.
And so.
Or to clear out one thing, you're talking about like the group of students that ended up protesting.
Yeah, because okay. that's part of the bigger picture. Because down the road when they're protesting, they're also protesting this situation.
I just want to clarify you're talking about the major group of students. Right?
Yeah. So the campus police is a part of the administration. Yeah. And a lot of students felt like they handled the situation poorly. Yeah. And so.
Can I ask you, how would they preferred it to be dealt with? I heard something about like community policing in situations, or.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on how they would have preferred it. I do know that the police were going off protocol. This is what I have to do. But when working on a college campus, protocol oftentimes isn't the appropriate thing to use, and I personally don't think it was appropriate for them to escort a student from their dorm at 1 a.m. Yeah, I do not think that was an appropriate way to handle the situation. So
would have been better just to go maybe ask him to come in the morning and talk to him, or how would?
I'm not sure what transpired. I'm not sure how serious it was, but I do know that there are residential directors. I'm a residential assistant, so and I do know that there are residential directors who could have handled that situation at 1 a.m. and the police didn't need to be involved. Or they could have been involved but not have taken them all the way down to the police station. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So we have this situation that's going on campus. Things are bubbling up. And a week later, things are coming through where the students are leaving campus to go to these seminars, right? And the Brett is going to his class, like he said. He's going to class like a normal day. He says specifically in the Joe Rogan that he actually talked to a minority student of his. Yeah. And they were talking like a normal day, and then he goes to class, and then so how do we get from bubbling over with these two students with the police officers and moving rooms to protesting with Brett?
So there was an organizing done after the campus police incident. There was organizing done to which I was in the room, but I was not actively a part of. Yeah. Where they essentially wrote down 3 faculty teachers' names, as well as just their grievances with the school in general.
Oh, and I actually, just so I can get this straight. So before the protest even hit Brett's classroom, there was 3 professors that were picked out as ones that had racist leanings or considered racist professors on campus.
Yes, and Brett was one of those.
Yeah, so Brett, so two others were
Yes.
considered that too. Okay, so so from there, how do we get to Brett's classroom, and how does that happen?
So there was a plan in place to protest Brett, essentially.
And this is based off the email that they distributed amongst the students.
Yes, yes.
About him disputing
Day of
Day of
absence.
absence, yeah.
day of absence.
Yeah.
No, in that email that went out, there wasn't any attachment to what his dispute was, though, right? Was there? Did the students know what his dispute was, or were they just told?
No, they had read the email.
Okay, I
and
got
so
you,
they
yeah.
they
I was
didn't-
curious.
Yeah. And a lot of that feeling had to go with they saw Day of Absence as empowering people of color, and if somebody wants to attack that, then they are
Crossing the
anti-black
line.
or racist.
Anti-black.
Right.
Okay.
Just to challenge that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you think, Brett, if the day wasn't changed, let's say that it was just going as normal like it does every year, do you think Brett would have said anything?
Well, from what I know about Brett, I know he's been a faculty member for it's 15 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have a problem with people of color leaving campus. He just had a problem with
The white people reversal.
yeah.
And of course, as we were talking before the show, you said that you had issues with him going to the press and saying that that it was voluntary, and
Yeah.
he's telling them that it was people were being forced.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. There's definitely he portrayed Evergreen in a false. I think he's contributed to a false narrative of Evergreen.
Yeah.
In discussing day of absence. It's a voluntary. It's never been mandatory for either groups of people. There are only 200 spots available for whites. For this year, there were only 200 spots available for white students to leave campus. So it wouldn't have been possible for every white student to be forced off campus. There's about 3,000. So
Yeah.
So essentially, if he didn't have sent that email and just gone to school and continued his class that day, none of this would have happened. So
Sounds like
it would have happened.
It sounds like there's two other students.
Yeah.
There's two other teachers out there that were targeted for that.
Look, there was like, to get it straight, how many different instances? Because there's like there's the Brett email, and then there was the instance with the police that happened. So that's like two different things.
Which happened a week before this.
Yeah, that happened.
And then
That brought us to the protests.
which brought us to a protest, and it sounds like they were getting together to go protest two other teachers.
Yes, they were, and I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure if they. I know for one faculty member, they were out of town.
Oh.
And so
They lucked out.
But they were going to.
He voluntarily was not there.
Think he knew ahead of time. So from what I've known, there are two main incidents that have occurred that led to what we have today.
Yeah. So we have Brett. Finally, you guys get into his office, and how did the comfort? Because look at the video. It doesn't. It's kind of like the video. The video doesn't really kind of show you guys walking in, and how does it start? Did you guys walk in to like chant him down, or was it one to confront, or was there like what was the goal by going in there and protesting?
So I wasn't at that protest, but I think the goal was essentially to confront him on what some people thought was a racist email.
Which was that email against that?
Yeah, and to ask him to step down.
Step down based off that, and so how did we go from? So of course he wanted to talk about it instead of like he wanted to like explain himself. So maybe maybe if based on your guys' opinion that he's got a racist that email's racist, and based on what he says, this kind of reverse racism by you. So you got two people are saying racism.
Yeah.
And both sides actually saying I'm not racist.
Yeah.
So we got two different groups that are probably are failing in the messaging department. You know, like you know what I'm saying? It's like maybe because if you look at like the news reports that are out when they explain it, you know, people are like, "What?" You know, like they're kicking white people out, and then you know, you know what I'm saying?
Which is completely false.
Yeah.
I should add.
Yeah, well, we can go into that more.
Yeah, we can go. I mean, it seems like a lot of media sources actually they got all the information they want from the students just by the videos. They can just put those together, and they're like, "No, we don't need to hear anything else, right?" You gave us everything we want. To,
everything, exactly.
Oh, it's just enough to be there. The whole thing about liberals, and of course the Fox News people. Who, they're like, "Oh my God," you know, it's like first Christmas, and now.
So you can hear them cracking their knuckles. You know what I mean? It's like.
Maybe. So I mean, maybe there's a learning experience too about that because I mean, there's like
it's messaging.
A little better messaging.
And that's another thing that's national because the messaging from the White House is bad too.
Yeah.
And that brings up another good point. I think problem that both sides are having is they're listening to invalidate, and I think.
Oh, good point.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we need to listen to understand.
Yeah.
And
especially in an educational environment.
And I think it's easy, and I have criticized the tactics of the protesters. I think it's easy to do that, but we have to look deeper into it and listen to what they're actually they don't feel safe. And for a large number of students not to feel safe, that's very troubling to me.
Yeah.
And it should be troubling to this administration. So we have to separate the tactics versus the message. We have to, and it's very hard to do. That's very hard to do, but we need to do that.
Yeah, you know, I really like Tony says that you know those videos, and I mean we can talk about Brett going on cable news later in the show, but we do believe that those videos and those were the catalysts that kind of launched this to the next level, to the national level. It is literally what got the attention. It's the virality, and I guarantee you, seeing all those students with phones out, right? You know why they're videotaping, and I know why, because they want to put hey, I'll make some money on YouTube. Yeah. This is crazy shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or, and I'm not saying all of them, but there was like, you know, you got 50 people and 30 people with their phones out. You know, not everybody has is documenting it. You know, for the proper reason. Yeah. They just put it out there without any context, and just like here it is, and people were looking at the optics. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Without knowing the story. Like we had to bring you in because the student story was the video, and that's all the population knows, exactly. And that's why you're here.
And it's much more complex than just what the video shows.
Yeah. The videos are just so one-sided. I mean, you got a photo of a group of people sitting in their porch with baseball bats. I mean, it just seems surreal. Yeah. I mean, that can't be. Tell me that was over-exaggerated.
I was saying it looked like a Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
You know, it looks so weird, man. It's like these weird gangs and all these chicks with baseball bats. And stuff.
I will. To speak on the baseball bats and the
let's get into that.
There's been a lot of there's a narrative that the people walking around with baseball bats are walking around to hurt Brett Weinstein students, which I have not personally seen, and I do not think that is true.
Is that a rumor going around campus though?
No.
Okay.
It's a rumor going around, or that I've heard of.
Yeah, okay.
In the national media, but they are walking around because we have had some incidents where drivers would drive around at a certain time at night and say a racial slur. And it's been pretty consistently going on for the
Okay,
past.
so do you got like people from the community showing up and just driving into the campus and making
harassing you guys.
harassment?
Or I don't know if it's from the community, but
or from the school itself.
just
Is it possible?
Anybody just
just random people.
Yeah.
And so we have had people walking around, driving around because they want to make this campus safer. It's a lot of white identifying students as well who are walking around with bats to try to help out where they can.
Well, especially with 3 days of death threats
So-
coming in.
So basically, the bad thing is like about something different than what they made it.
Yeah, they made it
Yes.
sound like it was
So-
a gang
so-
going out to beat people down.
Yeah.
So the bats that came out, those did they come out before this incident?
No.
Okay.
They came out after the incident, and I believe after the incident, I'm not sure where the
the
racial slurs started happening. I know I learned about a random person driving around saying racial slurs about 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And after that, they started having bats, and they started carrying bats.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've experienced that racial slur. I think I was like 10 years old. I was there, outside the car, and then they drive off.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't really hear the whole thing. You just hear the very beginning, and then the rest is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to Brett's now after we digressed on that. But so we got Brett. They're protesting. They leave Brett. They don't harm him. They just shout, right? So Brett, because we do see video later of Brett talking in the hallway to the students, explaining his point of view.
Yeah.
Once most of the students have left.
Yeah.
So where do we go from there? What was the next thing? Was it the take over the library or?
Afterwards, there was a take. I'm mixing up. I might be mixing up the time frame, but I do know that there was a session that George Bridges had held.
Did George say, "Hey guys, won't we talk about this?"
Yeah, I believe that had happened. Actually, that might have happened before the protest. I might be mixing it up.
So was this like a kind of emergency meeting, or
Is this the one where you guys bombarded it, or
No.
Okay.
This
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah. This happened beforehand, and a lot of students. I decided to show up. A lot of students decided not to show up to this particular meeting because they felt like it was. I actually read a note that I received from some of the protesters where they felt like it was sort of a silence the black people session.
Yeah.
Where George Bridges could just check off on his list that he tried to have a conversation. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I showed up, and I think we had some good dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after that, we sort of digressed into this place where people were taking over the library, and also, and the day and in that afternoon, they also took over George Bridges' office.
Okay.
So how do you feel that George Bridges handled the situation when dealing with him over the course of the whole few-day period that this was going on?
I think he handled it the best way he could. I think he was working from a place of trying to de-escalate the situation by himself, knowing the Evergreen community. He knew the Evergreen community really well, and involving the police to essentially force the protesters out wouldn't have solved anything, and it would have. Some students might have gotten hurt, and it just would have escalated the situation.
So you're talking about the moment when they took over his office and he was in the office?
Yes, when he told the campus police to step down.
Yeah, he told us. And I think we talked about this before. Is that he was in it's of your opinion that if he would have brought the police in, it would have escalated to even something worse.
Yes, definitely.
The potential, yeah.
Yeah, the potential. Yeah. So with that potential and him kind of reading the tea leaves on this, is he took a moment and he tried to de-escalate it, and by doing so, you guys videotaped him, and there was some mocking and some laughing at him, which is. It was very. I mean, this isn't a man looking at another man being talked and laughed at like that. It was kind of sad.
Yeah.
But what he did that, and he really kind of saved it from getting worse.
Yeah.
And
it looked like he had the students in mind when he decided to bring him in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of leadership. I hate to say it. I mean, Brett accused him for having lack, but now that I think about it. He actually led you guys through
At
that
time,
Yeah.
So in a way, I would have to disagree with Brett on that because he could have done that. He could have saved face. Exactly. And brought in the police, and then it could have got really bad, but we got it under control. Versus like, all right, we don't have to get bad today. Yeah, they're being kind of dicks to me about my hand movement, They won't let me go to the bathroom, Okay, well, that is the craziest part. Is he going to run away?
I agree. That was...
Two people, oh, come on.
That was a little more ridiculous. I would have to agree. I would have to agree again. I would just like to encourage the listeners and anybody just to... listen more to what they had to say than the tactics that were used. Because some of the tactics that were used, I was not.
So learning. There's a learning opportunity for everyone. But I think the fact that what I learned a lot about Gandhi when I was at Evergreen, and Gandhi, they humiliated him, and he won, and what he did was he humbled himself before you guys, and while you guys mocked, some of the people mocked and laughed and pretty much made fun of him. He led you guys through it and made it where you guys could go to school the next day.
Yeah.
And people don't have criminal records and riots aren't going and so he actually de-escalated the situation. Yeah. So I kind of disagree with Brett. I actually see that as a.
You just showed a new perspective right there.
Yeah, he showed the appropriate leadership.
Yeah,
I guess.
You can't help but admire that kind of pill that he swallowed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was tough to watch.
It was. Yeah. As a man, as a grown man, I'll go where I damn well please.
Yeah. And he could have said that, and nobody on the outside would have really blamed him for saying that.
Yeah.
But I think being a president of a college, particularly a unique institution like Evergreen, you have to be able to think creatively about how you're going to handle certain situations.
I seriously don't think this could ever happen again. I think you'll get the police next time. If it happens again, I think this is a unique moment in time, and I think it's one that a lot of people can learn from. So I mean, but I think that they've taken some wounds from the public persona. And if he might not even make it as president, because of this.
Yeah, which I've heard from both sides that they're trying to get him to step down. I do not agree with that at all. I've met with George Bridges personally, and he's a great guy who's really trying to help this community, and who's really passionate about helping students. And so I would just like to say that he is not weak, and
it takes strength to humble yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely
with people
does.
mocking and laughing at you.
Yeah, it definitely does. I was inspired by him in that room.
So I don't consider that weakness. It showed good sound judgment because, I said, he could have escalated it and made it worse too.
Yeah.
And it would have been. I really think it would have been worse.
Oh yeah, well yeah, you guys were on fire. You were like, no, we're gonna be heard.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we got the whole thing of taking over the principals. It sounds like you guys started negotiating with him.
Well, there was a list of demands that was presented to
Yeah,
him.
well, can you go over the list of demands and kind of go over what your guys' thought process was? And so was that presented that day, or was it something over a negotiation over?
It was presented that day, but some of the students had said that it was a living document. I do not know the specifics of certain demands. I do know that.
Well, bullet point of the ones that you can that mean something to you then.
Yeah, I know there was a demand to not allow the police to have rifles on campus. There was a demand to create a bigger equity center. We have a diversity and equity center to essentially give it a bigger room as well as give it a full-time staff, our full-time staff person. Those are the only two that I can. I guess Brett Weinstein and.
You wanted him investigated or fired?
They wanted him fired.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay. He's got tenure. I think it'd be kind of hard.
Yeah.
To fire him.
And I don't think. I think that's some of the students didn't necessarily.
There's been other
understand
professors that made firestorms in the media, and they're still there. And
Yeah.
A lot of people, throughout the years. Once you got tenure, you're on.
Yeah, and also just being at a state institution, it's very hard to get somebody fired. You have to go through the necessary steps and
channels and stuff like that. Too.
Okay.
There was two other people, and I think Brett Weinstein mentioned them on in an interview
On Joe Rogan's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrea Siebert. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
I'm sorry. For all those people who want to know the names, check out the Joe Rogan Experience podcast and episode 970, I think. That's the interview with Brett Weinstein.
Oh.
So, and you'll be able to get the name. Anyways, so what there was another gal's name, and there was something like York or something like that.
Stacy.
Yeah, and what about her?
She is the police chief at Evergreen.
Or is it Brown? Stacy Brown?
Stacy Brown, yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, she's the police chief at Evergreen.
And she's an alum.
Yeah, she's an alum. And personally, I feel like she's done a great job in protecting the community. But
you still want her disarmed? Or do you want her gone?
Well, they want her disarmed, yeah.
Okay. Or would you be okay with Stacy and the police force staying there without weapons or non-lethal weapons or?
Then they won't be a police force, and
so police force is only when they have weapons.
Well, a commissioned police force has to have weapons. So
good point.
So it would be very hard to disarm them, and I don't know. I'm a resident. Essentially, they will turn out to be just another
security guards.
Yeah, security guards. You don't really have any real power.
They got a walkie-talkie. Yeah.
Don't they have
Although I would say that it may not be a good idea considering like all the right-wing attention you got and the death threats and all that anyway to all of a sudden disarm your police.
Yeah, this week. This week has definitely shown that we.
You might want to rethink that.
Yeah.
It happens. Like I had an idea and now I'm thinking back on my idea. It happens to people. Scratch that. Some new things that happened lately that now I'm rethinking my idea. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. So so you guys present these. A request to them, and during that time, Brett's been going on the media.
Yeah,
he went on Fox News. He went on Joe Rogan. I think he went on another podcast, and at least, and he's done. I think he do an op-ed for New York Post.
I think
New York Times.
The New York Times did one on him. I think.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So and quite frankly, he's been effective communicator to the public about his point of view.
Yeah.
And most of the nation sees just the videos of the protest and screaming and telling the was it the principal or the president to keep his arms down and to I've lost my
It
train of
was
thought.
basically the protests, and we see just the protests, and then Brent's his whole idea of what happened or whatever, and
Yeah.
that's the only thing the media shows us.
Yeah.
Basically, right now.
Yeah,
as we
So
go.
It's like a one.
and it really bothers Brett that he's being called a racist.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this in past, is that Brett would have probably never ever gone to the media, even with the protest in his room, if those videos didn't make it. I do think the students do play a role in this, and they do play a role. The media was already sniffing that
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah.
Once those videos were posted on YouTube.
Yeah.
So they were looking for the story. So even if Brett never said anything, they would have done the story. They would have found someone to talk.
Yes, they would have. I would like to see more student voices centered in that
Yeah.
conversation.
Which has been completely missing from this.
Yes, definitely. I've read and listened to some of what Brett Weinstein has had to say in the media, and again, I think he's being completely, either he doesn't know or he's choosing to mislead the media and the people who are watching, because a lot of this stuff is just, quite frankly, not true at all.
Yeah. Well, why don't we break it down? Like for the audience to know is that you disagree with a lot of the stuff that Brett says, especially in the media. What are the things that you want the audience to know that you guys differ? The story is not what Brett says.
Well, the two things that there's a lot, but the two things that stand in mind right now is just the idea that you're forced to leave campus if you're a white identifying person. That's absolutely not true. The college has never taken part.
So there was no forced leaving of white students.
Yeah, there was. And he also mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast about Asians being a part of the problem. He completely misworded the workshop. It was not a workshop attacking Asian Americans at all. It was a workshop.
Or blaming them for being
I
successful.
completely disagree. They are the problem.
And for the audience, Kevin's Asian, so.
All right, fine.
But it was essentially to talk about anti-blackness in the Asian community, because people of color still can be anti.
So it's not just white people who are racist. Is that what? Am I reading that right?
It's not just white people who contribute to racism. Yes, it's a lot of forces, a lot of people, and in fact, there was a workshop. I believe there was a workshop last year on colorism within the black community and how the black community contributes to.
Its own form of racism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well, explain that a little bit more.
Well, from my understanding, where he's going to is like just shades of color you are. You're light skin, dark skin.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that kind of thing within the black
You're
community.
mixed.
You're mixed. Yeah,
Yeah.
That kind of stigma. If you're of mixed origin, you could actually get made fun of for not being black enough.
Yeah.
Or if you're really dark, you
Yeah.
made fun of for being too dark.
What if you date
What then,
somebody
like-
that's not black? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get that too. That's
Yeah.
swirling or whatever.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the date. I think swirling is what it's called now. But there's a different,
Swirling. I've never heard of that term.
it's it's just one of the things with two people of most black. It's always usually someone black and someone white.
Or
Yeah.
just.
Or you think of the swirl ice cream with the vanilla chocolate.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah, that's exactly where it comes from.
That's all you had to say.
Yeah, the swirl. Yeah,
You know Dairy
soft,
Queen?
soft serve ice cream.
Yeah, that's it.
So there's
So there is, yeah.
it sounds like just people just can't, are always finding reasons to pick on people.
Yeah,
It's like,
people in general. That's kind of like
in general, it's like,
all
nature.
people. Yeah,
well, I think it was like go back through the history, like Jews and Irish were treated historically bad too. Irish and Scottish, and I think the Scottish too, but the Irish definitely.
A few hundred years ago.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, even up to now, even
1900s,
yeah.
So,
You've seen Gangs of New York.
Yeah, the Gangs of New York, yeah. And based on my history lessons off that. So that was going on. Other issues with Brett, like, let's kind of cover that email that he sent, because, I read it, and I'm white. So I read it, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. What's all the hoopla about, right?
Yeah.
So can you, like, educate the audience kind of from your perspective, what you saw was potentially racist out of it, and what are maybe like the white, like me, what am I missing?
Yeah. So the email was essentially sent to a faculty who works for First Peoples, which is the Multicultural Diversity Center, and I think that was where some people felt like it was very problematic to send that to a Black identifying woman.
Mm-hmm. So when Brett was going to when he disagreed with that whole idea, he's like, I'm going to go ahead and send an email to... Was that professor one that was spearheading it?
I'm not sure why he chose to send that email to that particular person. I would imagine that she would have to... I would imagine that she would be on the organizing committee for that. I think that is where some of the protesters...
It seems like he was trying to have a communication directly with someone involved with the whole thing.
That's what on just without knowing all the details.
Yeah.
Just from looking in, it looks like he's like, hey, I feel like I don't think this is the best idea. It sounds like that.
No,
I mean, without going over the whole email.
Yeah, and essentially that's what it was. And I think some of the issues with it was the fact that, like I said earlier, the fact that this day of absence is seen as a program that helps POC, and anybody who attacks that or anybody who disagrees with that program is trying to hurt POC.
Yeah.
And so it's either or.
Now, I think that professor has been in some of the videos too, and she looked uncool too, freaking out and cussing, and I think she was...
I think that was something different.
Yeah.
He's talking about the original... Brett didn't send an email to her.
Oh, Brett didn't send the email to her?
Yeah, from what I understand.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the media professor.
Yeah, I believe that the media professor is the one that confronted him like 5 months ago, according to Joe Rogan. Remember?
I'm not sure about the...
There's a video of one African American professor, and she's just screaming top of her lungs and cussing. I'm like, oh my god, that's not... To me, I'm just like, that's not...
Not professional.
Not professional. I'm like, you are a leader. You don't have to scream. You already got the position. Yeah. People listen to you.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I agree, but I would like to
without having the context. Yeah, let's delve deeper into that.
We have no context.
Yeah, I have no context. Yeah. It's just that clip. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of giving you the perspective that the rest of the world sees. Yeah. So they see that clip, they're like, "What? Yeah. She's a professor acting like that?"
She's very angry. And
yeah. So that is during the protest in the office, right, or the administration. Is that the same time that's going on?
I'm not sure what video. I'm
not going to play it because it will probably piss off the audience, because it's really, when you hear someone screaming and yelling at people like she was.
I agree. Yeah.
She was yelling at faculty, right? And telling whether to go in or go home.
Yeah, and telling them to get the F out of there.
Yeah.
She
I haven't seen that video.
She lost her cool, man.
I do know that the faculty that Brett Weinstein first sent the email criticizing day of absence to was not the media works professor.
Okay.
And also wasn't in the... She was in one of the protests, but I have never seen her I have never seen her cuss or yell at
Okay.
either of those protests.
Yeah. So, and of course, the audience can definitely Google and look at the video.
Yeah.
Like I said, I cringed.
It was
For
overwhelming.
anybody that's in a position of as a educator or a position of a leadership to act like that, just she lost all integrity.
Yeah.
And you never lose your cool, man. You guys teach
Well, you
Gandhi
know
over
what?
there, you know. It's like,
Well, I would even say even for a shift manager at Taco Bell, that would have been too
Yeah.
far. You
it
know,
looks like Jerry Springer shit, man.
Yeah.
She should have been on Jerry Springer instead. And I'm sorry, that's the way she was acting was like a Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
She's on Jerry Springer, and hopefully she takes that with some grain of salt. You know, like maybe if she hears this, learn from it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
You are there.
I agree.
You have a voice.
Yeah.
Use it. Don't don't act like that and take your voice away.
but when you have emotions going through, you can
I know.
people. She
We've all been
she
there,
wasn't
man.
thinking about she was being filmed and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, she should.
But she should. As a faculty, she needs to.
Yeah.
There's so many damn YouTube videos out there, you know. So
I'm surprised she didn't get slack from PETA,
Well,
man,
I'm-
because her dog was
I'm
scared.
I'm surprised. Well, yeah. Well,
she was holding onto a dog while she was screaming.
yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm surprised that she's not going to be under investigation too, because that's unbecoming of a leader
Yeah.
and an educator.
That's
That's not the place where you.
Yeah.
That's not how you want your leaders. Like the president, Mr. Bridges, he calmed down and humbled himself, you know, and was able to get communication going to the point where he could salvage things.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think her having to scream like that would make him listen. I mean, he was already willing to work with you guys.
Yeah, and I think it's
And I'm sorry, I know it's sensitive, you know, to
Yeah.
talk about this. So.
no problem. I'm not too familiar with that professor, so I
Yeah.
do not feel comfortable.
It's just cringeworthy, though. Yeah. Okay. We'll get off it.
But I do know there was another. I think the Joe Rogan show mentioned this about the police review board had a meeting where there was no yelling. There was people bringing out tangible solutions.
Yeah. Where are the YouTube?
Where's that video?
It
got lost.
Yeah.
Disappeared in thin air.
You know, it's like, you know, all we got is Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have the civil. Okay.
Yeah.
And listen, he did, like, all those emotions that the protesters felt are part of the human condition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Every single one of them. So they're natural. So when that shit happens, what happens after? And the fact that police weren't called in, arrests weren't made, the fact that you guys are coming down with solutions, that's not really being. I mean, the way the media is portraying is that that you guys made some, like, you know, crazy request. You know, you're like, every Thursday I want free hot dogs. you know what I'm saying?
You can't forget.
Cheese filled.
You can't forget that there's roving gangs of baseball wielding people making sure that all white people leave the campus.
It's like a John Waters movie.
According to how the videos are put together. Yeah, this is what. And okay, so it's like a series of events, and some of them weren't even related to the other. So like the baseball bat thing, I'm going back to that, wasn't even directly related to the talking with the faculty or even the protests, because there was no baseball bats in a protest.
The baseball bats were a reflex to
what came after with all the threats.
I would argue that they are strongly connected in terms of the anger that students are feeling. They don't feel a person was able to drive for like a couple weeks straight, yelling a racial slur at students.
And that's the N word, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And just yelling it without being confronted? Or were like...
He was in his car, I think.
Yeah, he was
off.
in his car, and so it was easy for him to just drive off. Like, there wasn't time to call the police or anything. And so students were frustrated about that. They were frustrated that 2 African-American students were...
Straight up, where are the viral videos on that guy? You know, literally videotape his car. I mean...
Yeah.
Hey, this is our this is our this is Evergreen State College's local racist. This is like you're famous now, asshole.
And you know what else too? I mean, here it is, right? You got the video, boom, and there's also license plates. So now anyone that comes through could be like, hey, you're gonna, you know what? You could be racist, but you're gonna be on TV, internet TV.
Yeah, I mean, since it is that era, man.
Yeah.
But there's just this interest in black militancy, as the Joe Rogan show likes to point out, and so yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So we got you guys negotiating, like, right, and we got Brett out there doing it, and I like I told you, I really do believe Brett. Whatever you think about him, Brett is doing what he thinks best to survive this. And I think that by you guys not liking what he says and refusing to listen to him, because you, like you said, you went in there to just make him want to go. Yeah. Right? And he's like, dude, I got tenure. I'm not going nowhere. This is my livelihood. This is how I make my living. Yeah. I disagree with you. I'll talk with you. When he couldn't, and quite frankly, in an educational environment, those tough intellectual discussions about, and especially about race and ethics and logic, those debates go on, and I think he kind of expects it because he's an academic. Mm-hmm. And I think when he sent that email, I think he was expecting that debate, not to be reduced down to like the. Like you know what I'm saying. So I see the YouTube videos being the catalyst, and also Brett feeling like he was being called a racist and he disagreed, and therefore he felt like he had to not only he felt like, because you guys are like demanding his job, but I think that he's literally fighting for his livelihood and his integrity. Yeah. And I think that's without the YouTube videos, though. I think that you guys probably could have survived this without a whole national.
They still can survive it after.
Oh, they are, because the great thing about this, man. I think the great thing about this is how do we go forward, and how do we because shit blows up in our daily lives all the time. Shit blows up society-wise all the time. How do we make it better from this bad series of events?
We just have to come together as a community and have dialogue. Both sides of the spectrum at Evergreen haven't really been.
What does it look like
at Evergreen?
So who are like people getting together? Are they seminaring or how do without being too facetious? But how because you can't do it without envisioning it. Yeah. If you don't know what you're. It sounds good until you actually know what you're talking about. I actually see me doing this. Like I think maybe showing like student leadership and reaching out to someone like Brett. Yeah. And what do you think? What would you be open to something like that?
I'd definitely be open to having a conversation with Brett, sitting down and discussing his email. I personally didn't agree with his email that Day of Absence was a racial segregation program, but I would be willing to sit down and have a one-on-one with him and discuss it, and maybe at the end agree to disagree or potentially to change.
Maybe a different solution to what's going on. Something similar, but.
Sometimes it helps when you don't have to agree with a person, but like just to see how he came up with that. That logical thinking. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you can see how somebody came up with an idea, it makes it a little bit easier. Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't have to agree with it, but if you can just put yourself in his shoes, it's like
at least try to understand.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, and I'll give you good examples. Like sometimes people will think crazy stuff, and you're like, wait, I'm going to listen to you, and then they'll tell you, and it's based off pure craziness, and you're like, okay, this guy is a nut, he is who I thought, right? But at least they got heard,
Yeah.
And they don't have all that energy devoted to it anymore.
Yeah.
And then they're able to go on throughout their day without distracting and doing it. So I think Brett needs to be heard, and he needs to be heard by you guys.
Definitely. I agree.
And he really needs, and he doesn't need to be heard by the media. He needs to be heard, like.
I agree.
And I think crazy times like this is when leaders step up. And true leaders. And I'd like to see maybe like you guys like get together in like the seminar hall.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, on campus, and you guys like hash it out.
Yeah.
Like hash it out with the public. Like the public don't talk. It's just like some student representatives. They come and you guys like have an intellectual conversation about stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my suggestion.
Yeah.
So, but either way.
Yeah, definitely. I like I said, I would be down to having that conversation.
You hear that, Brett? Brett, if you're going to be listening, we got someone to listen to you. He does not promise to agree with you, but he's willing to at least discuss it with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you've been asking for. So I'm not going to defend him. I'm not here to defend him. I was here to hear the student's point of view. So as the audience, this was all about the students and what happened from their point of view. So, but yeah, Brett, get a hold of Justin. So get a hold of him, or Justin, get a hold of him if you can find him. He's probably incognito now, man.
Yeah.
Wearing sunglasses and a trench coat.
An Achilles suit. On the grass, somewhere.
Yeah.
Looking like Inspector Gadget. We make fun of it, but I'm sure he's not feeling too comfortable right now.
Yeah.
So he's feeling scared. His family's scared.
Yeah, we all are.
So,
we all are pretty scared to be honest.
Yeah, it's an interesting time.
But if you guys can show society that you guys can like go from the craziness that they see on YouTube to solidarity and at least figuring shit out, I think that's a good lesson.
Yeah,
and it also shows.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think
the country needs to see that. Really.
I think the country. Yeah. Exactly.
I think those Fox News people need to see it.
Definitely.
They're not going to show that though.
Yeah.
I don't think they will, man.
What are they making up?
Shut it off.
We can try, though.
We can try. Yeah. You're always going to have one,
Yeah.
But the rest of the world, anyways. And I think, especially with the way tensions are so high in society.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are not. Yeah, show the world, man, how to do it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, is there anything else you want to add, man? Is there anything that people should be aware of, or something we missed?
I just want to add that Evergreen is a unique institution that takes pride in discussing issues of equity and justice, and it's a conversation that has been happening even before the media outburst. It's been happening, and it will continue to happen. It is an important conversation to have at any institution. There are always a room for improvement.
Yeah.
And a few students have used tactics that a majority of students don't necessarily agree with.
Okay.
But we have to dive deeper into the protesters, what the protesters are actually saying, and not be discouraged or not be distracted by some of the tactics or the tone of voice that is used.
And to summarize, the students they felt like what I'm not. Can you summarize what the students want, just as a closing? Kind of put a nice little message.
I do not speak for all students, but I will say that from what I've heard the students want is they want an institution that is deeply committed to protecting them and is deeply committed to ensuring diversity, ensuring equity. And that is at the root of the protest.
Okay.
And with that said, I would like to throw just a little challenge for students, because as you said, they had a good message with the wrong tactics. With those same students with the wrong tactics, it would be nice, like, if you and other people were able to get together with them to change the narrative that they did, because it would be positive to see them be part of the conversation, to
Part of the solution.
and the
Yeah.
solution to
Instead
make
of-
it right. Yeah,
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree.
All the stakeholders.
yeah, and no, and I'm not asking them. They don't have to apologize for their actions or that. Just come back and with a more level head.
Be prepared to
and
come
be
forward
prepared to
with a
like
solution.
People
come
can,
through with a real solution.
yeah, people can bend and not have to break. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And I think Brett. I think Brett would like chill if you guys like listen to him.
Yeah.
And you guys come back and go, and you guys have a little bit of debate, and then you're like, okay, we agree to disagree. You'd be like, cool, at least we talked it out. Hey, you guys want to go get a coffee? You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's, unless there was more to label him racist other than this email.
I do not know the context to that, so like.
I did have one question before we go.
Yeah.
What happened with those other two professors? Why are they racist?
I again do not know. I was not.
You were not. That's fine.
Is it merely because they support?
Yeah, you don't.
No,
Weinstein?
actually, no, because the media outburst around Brett Weinstein happened
After
the
these,
fact.
after
Yeah.
this
So these guys were these people were
targets before. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So and so, anyways, there's two professors on there that maybe you guys need to maybe have that debate with too.
Yeah.
And maybe you might find out that they're just maybe their message is wrong.
No.
And maybe they're not communicating properly because what they're saying and what they're thinking is coming out and hitting your guys' ears, and you're like, "What the hell?" And he does not mean that, or he or she. But who knows? Maybe they do mean it, and then that would be time to figure out something else. But anyways, Justin, you're an outstanding young man, and thank you for coming on here.
Thank you.
And I hope that you would come back and do a follow up. Maybe fall or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely let us know on your progress, man.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thanks for coming through.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Always.
All right, people, we're out.